Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about Captain America Infinity War, and more specifically when, how, why he can reverse heal, when does it work, when it does not work. The reason for this video is because so often we see these tricks with Captain America Infinity War, even as a 2 or 3 star champion in relative endgame contents where he absolutely cheats through the fights. And every time I post any of the videos with Captain America Infinity War reversing the heal, I get a ton of comments asking why does it happen, how does it happen, why it doesn't work with the person who's asking in the comments, so on and so forth. So today we're basically going to go through the necessary process step by step, check out the masteries that are required, so on and so forth. And basically I'm going to do my best to explain to every single one of you how to make sure you can reverse that regeneration with your Captain America Infinity War. First thing to note is that reverse regeneration in Captain America Infinity War's case involves a petrified debuff that is in his signature ability. So when you take a look at ability description of unduped Captain America Infinity War, he certainly has quite a lot of things going for him. However, none of them involve petrified debuff. So your Captain America Infinity War has to be duped. That's the first major thing. There has to be at least some dupe levels active. Second thing is, the higher signature level the better. The signature level changes the percent you are likely to proc these debuffs. At max signature ability, you are guaranteed to place the debuffs on opponent. At lower signature abilities, obviously you have less of a chance, so you have a chance to fail it. You do not want that to happen. You can still get through a lot of these heal reversals with a lot lower signature Captain America Infinity War, but it's going to be tougher. It's going to be tougher for you. So there will be some fights where it might not work at all. There will be some fights where you can get through just fine as well though. And when we go through his signature ability, the main kind of like 3 things to note is if you have a if you have a science champion, your well-timed blocks place weakness on the opponent. If you have cosmic champion, your well-timed blocks place armor break on opponent. And if you have tech champion, your well-timed blocks place petrified debuff on your opponent, reducing the heal by 25%. So that is not as simple though, as we're going to check out here. If we bring in Captain America Infinity War, because we need the petrified debuff, so we need to bring in any tech champion with us in order to access that petrified debuff. And we're going to see how that works out. So I'm going to tag in a random tech champion ghost. Why not? We're not going to use it. So now in theory, we have access to petrified debuff and we should be able to reverse healing. And we're going to be doing our testing in variant 2 just because we have very quick and easy access to aggression regeneration there. But we're going to see how it works out now. So I only have tech champion, so every time I parry, we can see that petrified debuff is active. Whoops, that's the wrong one. That's aggression fury, my bad. We need to quickly find aggression regeneration. Once guys, I somehow thought that this was aggression regeneration. I'm sure it's going to be somewhere close by here as well. Definitely remember variant 2 having it. This one, no. This one, yes. I'm quite certain it should be here. Yes, there we go, Diablo. And let's try it again. my apologies for a little kerfuffle. But yeah, so in theory, now we have access to petrified debuff, and we're going to see how it works out when we're trying to reverse healing. As a quick note, I have 0 points in Despair Mastery currently. So we can see that we're not reversing anything because we haven't, well, he's not. So here at 5, we can already start seeing some results. So we have 0 in Despair Mastery and we only have tech champions. So 4 debuffs, 25% each. Basically, 4 debuffs cancel out the regeneration, and 5th one is the one that makes sure we can reverse it. But it's very hard to get 5 debuffs. Let's see if we can do it. So you can see that regeneration's popping up. Whenever we're gonna get a chance, he's definitely regening like crazy. And we can't really get those 5 debuffs on consistently, and we ended up getting wrecked. Obviously that was user mistake, but that wasn't effective. The reason why it's not effective is because these petrified debuffs by themselves typically are not powerful enough. So the reason and the way how to increase the potency of petrified debuffs typically come from Despair Mastery. So we're going to put in 1 point in Despair Mastery. 1 second, let me just add 1 in Precision here. And yeah, so let's put in 1 point in Despair. And then we're going to try and do the same thing again. So let's go to Event Quests. Let's go to Mystery Micro Realms. Same quest. So we still only have the Tech Champion. So we're using the Tech ability of Captain America's signature. And yeah, with 1 point in Despair and only a Tech Champion. Can we reverse heal now? So this time we can see whenever we reach 4, we already start reversing the healing, and we can see some numbers flowing away. So this time with 1 mastery point in Despair and 4 petrified debuffs, we can already somewhat reverse that regeneration, and it's definitely noticeably easier. So even 1 mastery point helps. Still not an easy thing to do. So can we get it down now? I have generally not tried these things myself as well, so I'm interested to see. That limber to a degree helps us, to a degree hurts us as well. No, we didn't. Obviously you could eventually do that if you tried plenty enough times, didn't mess up your parries. I evidently didn't mess up my parry, but proving the point that it's still extremely difficult thing to do. Now there is a way how to obviously make it easier, and at the beginning of the video I mentioned that Captain America Infinity War can place more debuffs on his parries, and more debuffs would be if we add a Science Champion and if we add Cosmic Champion. So adding either of those, any champion of those classes, will let us place more debuffs whenever we parry. Now typically it would not matter because none of them reverse the regeneration, but since we have 1 point in Despair Mastery, that does matter because that's an additional debuff, and that will let us place Armor Break and Petrify, and that will work together with Despair Mastery, reducing the opponent's healing even further. So at this point, we're gonna bring in a Cosmic Champion alongside Captain America Infinity War and that Ghost. So every time we parry, we will be placing Armor Break on opponent, and we're gonna be placing that Petrify. But each Armor Break and each Petrify, thanks to Despair Mastery, reverses additional, well, lowers additional 5% of the healing. Petrify is the thing that actually makes it able to reverse it. And here we can see that with 3 sets, we already fairly comfortably can get them down. So it's immediately so much easier. You can see that health is starting to melt. So 1 point in Despair, only 2 sets of debuffs that we are placing. You can see here already very quickly Still going down. So here you can see by the time he reached 30 something aggression regeneration stacks, we managed to get him down. Obviously, the more debuffs we are capable of placing, the easier it will be for us to reverse the regeneration thanks to Despair Mastery. The one major important thing to keep in mind is that you must have the Tech Champion and you must have the Petrified debuff. Otherwise, no matter how many debuffs you stack, Despair Mastery will reduce the healing to 0, but it will not actually reverse it. Petrify is the key that actually reverses it. Here, we're gonna add Night Rusher, because Night Rusher has a synergy with Captain that allows him to place Disorient debuff occasionally on the opponent. And now we need another Science Champion to place those weaknesses. So we're gonna add She-Hulk as our Science Champion. And now we're going to see how our 3-star cap, how quickly this time he will be able to absolutely melt down these guys. And then later on, afterwards, I'm going to show what happens when we max out Despair, because obviously Despair potency increases the more mastery points we place in them. But here we also basically showed that so long as you have 1 point in Despair, and you can place 2 debuffs, so you have a Tech Champion and either Science or Cosmic Champion on your team, you already will be able to reverse the heal, which is very good to know. So at this point we will be placing all the debuffs this time, and here we can see that we got the Disorient as well, it's additional 5% or something. And here we can see that he's starting to melt out much quicker, and that heal reversal is much more aggressive. Even with 1 point in Despair. You must have at least that 1 point in Despair though, because if you do not have any points in Despair Mastery at all of these extra debuffs are absolutely meaningless, and they will not benefit you in any way, shape or form. So at least 1 point in Despair Mastery is a must. 1 is, as we saw, more than enough. But if we max out Despair, which is one of my personal favorite masteries, I pretty much never leave my room, so to speak, or never start a quest without Despair maxed. I run max Despair with pretty much all my mastery setups, whether it's Suicide, Mystic Dispersion, or just my casual setup. Even a Lanceward defense, I max out Despair. So let's go again. This time we have maxed out Despair, and he should absolutely melt, because each debuff we place on him reduces his healing by 15%. So whenever we parry, we place 3 debuffs, that should already be 45% plus Petrify. So it all adds up extremely quickly. So with 2 sets of debuffs, he will already be losing a large chunk of health the more he gains, obviously. So you can see 2 sets like this, more than enough. And gone basically. Obviously it's aggression regeneration, so he regens for more health the longer the fight goes on, but still. Absolutely no hope. So this is basically why Captain America can reverse healing, does reverse healing, and what you need to do. So if there's anything you take away from this video, know that it is to do with Captain America's signature ability. You need to have a Tech Champion on your team, and at least another champion that lets Cap get debuffs on opponents, so Science or Cosmic Champion, and 1 point in Despair. That is already the bare minimum. 2 sets of debuffs and 1 point in Despair is enough. To do it easier and quicker, go with full 3 debuffs, which is Cosmic, Science, and Tech Champions. And obviously Max Despair is a nice plus if you can afford it. If you can't, don't stress. 1 point in Despair is definitely enough for Captain to work. So I hope today's video has helped you guys. I hope this has made it clear, and this is probably going to be the video that I reference people to whenever I hear more people asking the same question, because I know I inevitably will. It's a very popular question in the community, and hopefully if you didn't know this before, now you do. And yeah, that will do for today. Once again, hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something from it, perhaps. And if you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya.